your only option is death or to go do what you're supposed to do.
California is a hotbed for human trafficking. It's frustrating for all of us in the Criminal Justice Center, for me, for law enforcement that works very hard on these cases, but it's most frustrating for the victims.
Our goal today is kind of max enforcement.
It's a growing crime.
Imagine a McDonald's drive-thru, and that's what this parking lot was. It would be bumper-to-bumper traffic.
And it's happening right in front of your eyes.
It's a different world, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yet most people don't even notice.
I wasn't fully aware of what was going on.
Well, I think we should get going. And I told Dan Chip that we would let you know that he wanted us to tell you that that's his chair.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm only keeping it warm for him.
Yeah.
Actually, he asked if you were gonna, if you were paying him, or I don't know how that money transacts.
Yeah, I feel like Dan was trying to facilitate this.
Yeah, no, he...
Thank you, Dan, for letting Jason fulfill your honorary position on the podcast. So, all right, let's introduce him.
How's it feel? Is it...
It's kind of stinky.
Yeah.
But, a little sticky. But,
That's all right.
It's all right. I'm sure it's fine. It's all fine.
So,
Yeah.
we are starting out the year, right?
Yes.
For 2026. It is January 1st. We are in the studio recording a podcast, first one of the year. And this one is particularly special because, one, we're covering a very important topic, but two, our guest, Jason Collins, just retired on Tuesday after how many years?
28 years.
28 years in law enforcement. And his 50th birthday was yesterday.
Yep.
And you're here today doing this
On the
with us.
31st.
I made it, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were negotiating, start times today, but, I came out all right.
Well, I already felt bad asking you to do it the week that you retired, but
Yeah,
you
it's
were
very selfish
You
of
were
you,
all
Kyle.
about it because you were like, "Hey, I can talk freely now." So open door.
Yep.
But when I was on the phone with you yesterday and you said, "Oh, it's my birthday today," I was like, "Oh, dude, forget it. Like, it's New Year's Eve and it's your 50th birthday and you just retired all in the same week. Like, we'll push this off another week, give you a little bit of time." And what threw me off is you said, "Well, you're not a big drinker," and so I thought, "Holy shit,
Unicorn?
turned 50." Yeah, you just retired as a cop in 20 years. He doesn't drink that much. I'm like, dude, you're a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's rare.
Yeah.
So
You know what
congratulations,
also
dude.
was a big deal today? Was Kyle and I...
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you are in line at a Chipotle and you're the first one there, typically the way it would work is you would order, right? Not the person behind you. So Kyle was behind me and had to jump in front of me because he wanted to be first.
Well,
So first customer of the year.
Hell
Yes.
yeah, dude. So Mark and I were the first
Yes.
ones in
Cut me off.
Chipotle at 10:45. This was not planned, by the way. We had a little bit extra time, so we were starving. So we at 10:45, boom, it opened up. We were already in the parking lot. We walked in, and at first I said, "Oh, dude, we're the first." And by the way, like 10 people walked in behind us and got in line. And like, we're the first customers of Chipotle for the day. Like, that's kind of cool because we like Chipotle. And then as I'm about to order, I thought, actually, we're the first customers of Chipotle of the new year of 2026. I'm like, dude, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So
number one.
He was in front of me, so I was like, F this, dude. I freaking cut in front of him.
Okay, so here's the actual question.
Right.
He paid for my lunch, which was super cool of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome. You never said
technically
thank
it's
you.
under one bill, which
Right.
means my lunch is included. Am I also the first customer? Like, are we the first customers?
Yeah. You
I'll
got
give
your
you that.
So I get part of that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. You split it. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
I feel
First
like
customers
Because
of
the receipt's
2026 at
gonna say
Chipotle.
One, right? Like,
okay, yes,
Customer one.
yeah.
So
Well, he
order
tried
one.
to like make it seem like I wasn't number one. He totally tried to make me number two.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. We're a team.
Yeah.
So we were the first customers of Chipotle of 2026.
Congratulations.
At least in this
That
area.
is amazing.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Autographs? Like, how do you do this? Like, do you just sign stuff for me? Or?
This is like a new
Well-
space for us, so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
not really sure.
Yeah.
I
Well,
do-
hey, soak it in, absorb it.
Yeah.
I do. Go ahead.
I feel like we're overshadowing your feat of an amazing law enforcement career and a birthday and
know.
New Year's.
I was
and
like,
we're talking about
congratulating
Chipotle.
him, and you
I don't know.
wanted to-
Numero uno at Chipotle is like,
They do have
that's
good
something.
chips.
Yeah.
Seriously though, dude, congratulations.
Thanks.
I mean, that is awesome. I know we talked about it. It hasn't really sit in with you, but maybe next week when you aren't going to work anymore, it'll really kick in. But that's amazing to make it that long.
I can't wait for that feeling, like Sunday night where usually I'm like, oh man, I got to go back to work tomorrow, which was never a bad thing because I did love my job. But also the having to get up in the morning was the hard part. And then, so yeah, Monday morning, I think it's going to be hitting me like,
Little weird.
this is nice.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And we're here to talk about, you're an expert in human trafficking, and we're going to dive super deep into that. But before we do that, I did get Mark a gift. It is the new year.
Yeah.
I value our friendship.
Aw.
We've been doing this for a while. You've been a great partner. So I did get you something, which I told you I was going to get, and you made fun of me. So this is the only bag that I had. So I apologize, dude. That it says happy birthday, and it's not your birthday.
It's actually your birthday, but I'm getting the bag.
Yeah, but here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll share with
I'm
you.
getting glitter on me, but
Want me to open this?
Yeah,
now?
go ahead. You can. Yeah, please on camera. So I ordered it. So
Dude.
I ordered on Amazon. It said like new but used. Oh, there's actually, it comes with a drill bit too in there.
So
It's a DeWalt drill, 18 volt.
I have been
Couple dings, but
missing this thing for so long. I actually had forgot that I even own this.
Oh,
I
that's-
actually had to buy a whole new set.
oh, this was yours. Shit, I'm sorry, dude. I thought it was.
You know how long you've had this?
It's got glitter on it even.
Oh, it's so dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
You've used it.
It hasn't been charged in over a year.
Or are you giving
For
it
as
back
long
to
as
me to
I've had it.
charge?
Oh,
You're giving it back to me to charge.
Yeah, so
Can I borrow that, please?
you can have your drill.
Yeah,
you
do you mind charging it and giving it back?
You can have your drill back.
This is great.
You're welcome. It's been in my
So
garage for
thoughtful of
over a
you.
year, and I thought I should probably give this back to him. It's expensive.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean,
You're welcome. So, happy birthday.
yeah. I mean, again, you're overshadowing.
It's the gift
Sorry,
that keeps
dude.
on giving all year, Clark.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, so there you go.
Can we focus on Jason a little bit?
Yeah, so
He's the expert here.
Wait, who? What? Oh.
so
Yeah.
Jason, you're here to share with us in depth about human trafficking. It's funny, when I spoke to you on the phone for the first time, it turns out we know a bunch of people in common. Bill Dunning, I work with Bill. You know Bill, and I know he's super passionate about this stuff too. So, hit it off, and you had a lot of. I know you have a lot of great insight to share about this particular topic. So first, let's hear a little bit about your bio, of your background in law enforcement, and then let's jump into how you got involved in human trafficking, and then where that took you.
Right. Yeah. So I started in '98 with Sacramento Police, and did the regular, typical route, I guess. 5 years of patrol, and then a couple years on POP, doing some street team stuff, and then in 2005 got into investigations, and my first unit was the illegal dumping and graffiti unit.
Wow, that sounds
It was-
pretty riveting.
It was intense.
Stressful?
Yeah, stressful much?
Yeah. I did an undercover sting at a scrapyard one time. It was pretty awesome. So
Hey, you know what,
You know.
dude?
Selling
selling
scrap?
stuff. Yep. So anyway, and then just kind of like investigations that's my niche. That's what I like. And I did not expect to do like 20 years in investigations. But I kept switching all these different units and finding these kind of new things to do. And I was in the gang unit at the time in 2017, and I had kind of like a specialty spot. It was I was kind of like the gun expert guy. And but the grant or whatever it was for that position was running out, and so at the time, this guy Derek Steigerts, who was like the guru of human trafficking for SAC PD, was retiring, and so I was opening that spot, and I was like, well, I don't know, that sounds kind of cool. Let me see what that's about. And sure enough, I get into it, and I don't know anything about human trafficking. I mean, it wasn't even really,
And what
kinda
year
on
was
the
that?
forefront. 2017.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge topic back then.
Right. I mean, we had the movie Taken, that was kind of like maybe what my level of knowledge was.
Well, I actually brought that up before you got here to Mark, because I wanted to reference
Let's
that movie.
no,
I know, and
let's-
then he didn't even know what that was. So thank you for referencing that movie.
Yeah, it's
Because it's all about
probably
human
one of the
trafficking.
greatest action films of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you. Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So anyways, but so I started kind of getting knee deep into it and realized like, oh man, this is some serious work. And it was my very first case was a 12-year-old victim. And at the time my daughter was 12 years old. So talk about a real, kind of like welcome
Yeah.
to the, welcome to the big leagues type of moment. But in that 8 years I've been doing this, it really became like my passion, and I just kept getting deeper and deeper into it, and became this subject matter expert guy.
It's interesting you talk about Steigers, because there was a short time where I wanted to work a similar field of what you're talking about, and I actually went over and worked on his team for like a short bit and got to see the FBI's headquarters and where all the background stuff goes on, and we did some stings here and there, and like it was really interesting to see like what actually happens that people don't really like talk about.
Yeah, no, like I said, the whole thing was a brand new learning experience for me. Learning how to do ops, learning how the victimology works, how the kind of exploiter dynamics works, just the whole kind of like psychology and mindset that goes behind it, and try to explain why would somebody do this and then be treated horribly but continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so once you started kind of getting into that whole thing, and then it really made it feel like, wow, I'm doing like some real good work here, like some real good stuff.
If you could give a definition just for the viewers or anybody listening, everyone has heard the term human trafficking, but if you could give it a frame of really like what is the definition of it, so that when we're talking about it, people really have a good understanding of like what exactly is human trafficking.
Yeah. Human trafficking is kind of an umbrella term. So under the law, whether it's federal or even California, human trafficking covers both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And basically, like the federal definition of it is, forcing someone to engage in commercial sex or forced labor, against their will, using force, fraud, fear, coercion, and stuff like that. I think just like for this conversation, the idea of commercial sexual exploitation is probably, a better way to talk about it, because human trafficking includes like the force and fear and threats and all that stuff. But we talk about other crimes that we actually probably spend a little more time on, like pimping and pandering. And it's all the same, victimization. It's just one has kind of force behind it, or, threats and stuff, and one doesn't. But there's still people getting victimized under this kind of commercial sex, kind of umbrella.
So when you say that, like what comes to my mind, and I'm not super, I've dealt with, some of these cases on whether it was patrol or whatever, but my realm in law enforcement was never down that road, but obviously I've come across it. So when you say that, you talk about like pimping and pandering and the forcible stuff, I'm thinking of women that work, certain streets, corners, do all that, and then money's being given to their handler or whatever. And then the commercial stuff is more like what they make that movie taken off of, right? Like massage parlors, maybe women doing things in businesses, and then money's being profited from that. They're not profiting that money, but they're not there on their own free will.
Right.
Is that?
Yeah. Don't think of commercial sex as in like, business. Just it's the actual business of it. Meaning, so from the most basic kind of simplest form is, yes, you have, it's primarily female, but there are male victims that we come across. But just for generalization, when we talk in this conversation, we'll talk about female victims. Yeah. Yes, they're engaging in prostitution, having sex with men in exchange of money, and then as being a victim, they have, a pimp. We call them exploiters now. As this whole idea of human trafficking has evolved, the terminology and the language that we use. So you say commercial sex exploiter, and we just call them exploiters for.
Okay, well, but for purposes of this show, we'll say exploiters.
Yeah, but for a lack of a better term, it's a pimp.
Yeah.
Okay, so. And there's varying degrees of exploiters. There's the very forceful, violent guys, and there's guys who are just benefiting, from their victims engaging in this commercial sex. And so whether it's out on the streets or whether it's online, through the internet, or whether it's through like massage parlors and brothels, these victims are engaging in sex with men. They get the money, and then they give that money or a portion of the money to their exploiters. And that happens on an hourly basis, a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis.
I had a question about, so how, like, some of these women that get, or females that get involved in this stuff, I mean, I'm sure you've interviewed countless of these women. I mean, are some of them open to telling you how do they get involved in it? Why do they stay in it? Why don't they, sometimes you think, well, why wouldn't you just like get in your car, leave and go back to where you came from? Like, what is keeping them engaged in?
Yeah. That's the biggest question I always have to answer, especially when I'm doing like expert testimony and like jury trials and stuff like that, because that's the question. Why would somebody have sex with men and then for money and then give that money to somebody else who is generally treating them horribly?
Yeah.
In some fashion. Like, who stays in that relationship, right? And if you kind of, there's a whole like victimology side to it, the psychology that goes behind it. Our victims have these like risk factors, these vulnerabilities that, are pretty consistent. Come from broken backgrounds. There's prior abuse. There's all these things that just make them susceptible to the manipulation and the coercion of these guys. And when I do these interviews with the victims, I could check several things off the list, like kind of right off the bat. And a lot of our victims also get into this at an early age. Depending on the study you read, the average age of females being introduced to a life of commercial sex is 12 to 14 years old.
Wow.
So imagine, being 14 years old and you're introduced to this life, and then you kind of grow up in this life, and then, you kind of don't know anything else, right? And so they kind of get caught in this world, and it just becomes what they know. The exploiters are good at like breaking victims down and making them feel kind of dependent on the exploiters, where they feel like they can't function, without them, right? And it's just, a lot of our victims just don't have great life skills, so they can't figure out how to get up in the morning and go to a job interview and work at McDonald's or something for, doing their typical job, and then, wait 2 weeks for their paycheck, which is taxed, right? And so they get a few $100s in their paycheck when they can go out in a night and, make a few $100s tax-free, and, you got cash in your pocket, and that's that. So,
is there a common story you heard from victims in interviewing them or talking to them? Maybe the younger ones.
Yeah, the most common is just like prior like physical and sexual abuse, like history, especially for our younger population. A lot of them are like foster care, group homes and stuff like that. So it kind of circles back to this like kind of like poor upbringing and stuff like that. So what I find is most of my victims have this deep-rooted need for like love and affection, and that's where these guys know how to like target that, right?
Yeah.
So they engage in like a relationship with the victim, and some of them are real. Like, I've had cases where the victim and the exploiter are actually like legally married, but most of the time they talk about, or they at least feel like they're involved in a relationship with this guy. And, like, and I said, sometimes the feelings kind of are mutual, but the power dynamic is always on the exploiter. Like, he controls everything. And you can also think of it, getting back to the, like, why would they do it? It's kind of like the cycle of violence for like domestic violence, right?
Yeah.
Why do these, victims stay with their, domestic partner or whatever? It's kind of the same mentality.
I think back when I was on patrol, I worked a lot on like Stockton Boulevard. There was a lot of, what we're referring to as victims out there, because a lot of them are victims from my experience. But I look back and see them, and initially my first thought, and I think the general public that's probably listening to this goes, when they drive in certain areas, and like in LA, and you see these victims out there that are dressed very provocative.
Inappropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, on the streets, and you think like, why are they doing this? Like, what is the draw for that? And then you see the exploiters out there controlling them. And it's like, why do you not just like leave that situation? Yeah. So I kind of understand it because I've worked quite a bit of that, but for the general public, can you explain like when you see the victims out on the street and they're working, like what are, and you're on the FBI and the law enforcement, the joint task force, and you're going down there and you're seeing that, like, what are some things that you're looking at to identify the victim and connect the exploiter? Because many times you see multiple victims,
right,
like in an area.
Yeah.
So how do you connect that?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Well, let me put it this way. So the victims we deal with in these cases are probably the most difficult victims from a law enforcement perspective to deal with, because a lot of times they don't see themselves as victims. A lot of times they don't want to cooperate with police because the number one rule in all this is you don't talk about your exploiter, especially to the police. And there's also kind of this like fear of repercussions from your exploiter, like if you talk to the police, right? Not to mention whatever other kind of like, cultural background or just like negative experiences they've had with police. Think about like all of the kids that are in foster care and stuff, who were the ones that probably took them from their homes, right? Probably law enforcement, right? Yeah. So we have all these barriers to begin with, right? Where typical victims of like, hey, that guy robbed me, I want him arrested, or they beat me up, I want them arrested. Our victims are like, I don't have a pimp, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm fine. Like,
well, I think you just brought up an interesting point, and I'm going to ask about this.
Yeah.
So a victim of a robbery, they've been a victim of a crime, they're calling 911, and you're showing up. But how are you making contact with these victims?
Right.
I think that's the interesting part is like, are you just going out, stopping and talking to them?
Right.
Striking up, are they calling you? Like, how are you making that initial contact?
Yeah, so it's like cold calling them is kind of like a hard thing to do. Like, yeah, if I'm so Stockton Boulevard is our main prostitution stroll for the Sacramento police area. If I'm out there on Stockton Boulevard, I'm really not going to be able to. I mean, I can go up and try to like chat the girls up, but a lot of times they're going to tell me to F off or whatever. And so,
why are they saying that to you? Just because you're the demeanor, the way you talk?
No, because I'm good at like showing them like. Let me circle back a little bit, and we'll kind of come back around to answer your question. There's kind of two ways to handle or to deal with this, right? You got the kind of the old school vice way, which is let's hit the streets, let's arrest, sex workers, and you're dealing with the public nuisance issue piece of it. Mm-hmm. That'll clean up an area or slow down the activity for an area for a bit. But how long Stockton Boulevard been a stroll in the county? Like decades,
forever.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then there's like the human trafficking aspect, investigative piece, which is what I do. And I'm more interested in seeing how I can help a victim get out of their situation and potentially put in a case against their exploiter. I don't get involved in the enforcement piece of prostitution, meaning I don't typically try to go out and arrest the girls or anything like that, or do operations directed at the girls, because my job as an investigator, especially a human trafficking investigator, is to build rapport and try to like gain cooperation and stuff like that. And if I'm the a-hole that arrested them a week earlier, then forget any sort of cooperation. So we would go out, like Fig and I would go out, my partner Anthony Figueroa. Shout out.
Well, your wave was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just
like,
saying
hey.
what's up Fig is like pretty normal, but you're like additional wave, like you have a solid bond with your partner at work when you're doing that. You're lucky, Fig.
Right. Yeah.
No one else has gotten that type of a wave, dude.
So we would.
He already misses you, just so you know.
I do. So we'd go out and like, we definitely have a tact with trying to like one of the things is like, we're not here to get you in trouble. Do you need anything? Do you need help or anything like that? If we, sometimes they'd get picked up by sex buyers, and we would make the stop and then deal with the sex buyer on one end, and then try to provide resources and just see. And there's been several instances where that type of situation has kind of opened the door for us. I could think of one specifically. We were out there, and like a week before, we had made a stop in that exact scenario. Sex buyer had picked up a girl. She looked pretty young, so we were wanted to make sure she was either an adult or not, and deal with it. Turns out she was 18, just turned 19, I think. And anyways, Fig was dealing with the buyer, and I was talking to her, and we were just kind of chopping it up a little bit. And then at the end of the stop, we told her, hey, you got to go home now. Like, you can't be out here anymore. And she's like, okay, cool. And just left on a good note. And then the following week, we were out there, and we didn't realize it was her, but we made another stop just like that. And then she gets out, and it was freezing that night. Like, it was like really cold, and she's just in this, short skirt and like sandals and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there talking to her, and she was like freezing. Mm-hmm. So while we were dealing with the stop, asked her if she just wanted to like sit in the back of the car, to warm up. And she's like, yes, please. And so we sit her in the car there, and so it's kind of an idea that, one, I'm kind of providing her a little comfort and meeting her needs and stuff like that. But two, it also, to prying eyes in the parking lot, because I knew her exploiter was probably out there in the parking lot watching that, makes it look like to him that she's being detained. And because if we're just out there chopping it up and we're kind of laughing and stuff, he's gonna think she's cooperating, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, it was kind of a twofold approach there. But anyways, long story short, Fig gets in the car, and he starts talking with her, and she starts opening up a little bit. And by the end of the night, she agreed to go back to the office with us, gave her access to some evidence that we were looking for, and we ended up making 2 out of 3 cases, or cases on 2 out of her 3 pimps that she's had over time. So that was a long-winded answer to get back to you, like, how do we deal with that? Like, how do we approach it? It's just kind of like, a lot of times they'll talk when they're ready to talk to us. We get a lot of our cases either like on call-outs where something has happened and patrol will call us and we'll come out and respond. And usually it's something bad has happened, and like they're upset at their exploiter and they're willing to talk to us, right? Mm-hmm. Or we do a lot of proactive operations, and we'll the idea is hopefully that their exploiters bring them to like the op, and then we can start trying to build a case against them. So it just the kind of like contact them on the street thing doesn't quite, get us there, but there's a lot of ways to kind of work our way in.
Putting myself in a patrol position, I mean, I'll fully admit I don't even know how many times I've contacted scenarios like that, mm-hmm. where I didn't look at a female more as a victim, more or less maybe as like a suspect of a crime that was occurring. And honestly, I mean, you guys can attest to this. I mean, there's not a whole lot of human trafficking training for cops that I was ever put through. I don't know about you guys, unless you obviously go into a specialized unit, you're going to get it. But outside of that, there's not a lot of it. Maybe there is nowadays. I don't know in the academy, but it is definitely looked at vastly different today than it was for sure 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I started 20 years ago. So back then it was completely different. But I'm just curious, for a patrol guy, what can they look for? Or how do they handle these situations? Because you had made a comment earlier that when you got into the unit, the human trafficking unit, you were noticing that patrol cops were just dropping the ball. I would say even not intentionally on these.
Oh yeah, not
just
through anybody's
not knowing,
fault.
how to handle them. So, what can they do on patrol to better handle these cases, or what can they look for to have a better understanding of like what to look for? Yeah, to then handle them appropriately.
Yeah, I do a lot of training for law enforcement in human trafficking, and we we were talking earlier, I've created a human trafficking for patrol course just because that was exactly what you were talking about. Like, what happens is a lot of times the initial call looks like a DV type call, right? You go to a hotel or something, and there's a guy and a girl in a fight, and a lot of them just kind of get cleared, as a domestic violence type deal. But once you start digging deeper into like what was the fight about, right? Like, was the fight over money? He wanted me to give him money. Things that we would hear. I fight with my wife over money because she depletes my account, but I don't like fight her and beat her up and stuff like that, right?
And demand money from her.
Right, yeah.
Or don't admit that you do.
No, absolutely not. But people argue over money, but they don't like get in huge fights at it, over it in a, hotel, type stuff. So, we have, and the call that like kind of started it all for me in creating that class was, it was exactly that DV call. She had met up with this old boyfriend of hers, air quotes. And, he was like, give me my money, bleep, and all this stuff. And he threw her out of a car. And so the officer is spending all this time trying to like build up the elements of like their relationship. Would you say it was a romantic relationship? How would you? And she's like,
to fit the elements of a domestic violence.
Fit the elements of domestic violence. And she goes, it was more like a business relationship. And he's like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, I guess you could say he's my pimp. And I'll give this officer credit. He like gave it the college try. Like he was asking her questions about that and stuff, but he was just missing things. And it's just because he didn't have the tools to land the plane, right?
Yeah.
And so ultimately, and she said some really good stuff too that like I could have made a really good case out of. But ultimately it was written up as a domestic violence report and shipped off, and we didn't see it for a couple weeks. So it's things like that. Like, yeah, what do you look for as an officer? Just kind of listen to what people are saying. Look at the situation. There's a classic case out of Vacaville where this exploiter was taking video of like what was going on in a hotel room, and he had like 3 or 4 girls in the room with him, and the 2 of the girls start fighting each other. And ultimately it turns into this big kind of like brouhaha. And we show this video because we asked officers, what kind of call do you think this is? 242, 415, something like that. And
which for the general public is a fight or an argument or something. Yeah, that's okay.
Cop talk.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
you're
like,
retired, dude. You don't need to talk like that anymore.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it was like, to the officers, the initial call would be some sort of like fight or, dispute or, something along those lines. But when you see this guy in there with 4 young, girls just hanging out in this hotel room, just kind of like let the spidey senses kick in and figure like, what, this might not be what this looks like at first. So, and if you're working in like, say, a stroll area, you're going to see the girls out there working because like you said, they are wearing next to nothing anymore. And it's really...
So, but what if, so if a cop goes to a hotel like that and encounters a situation, I mean, I've done it myself and knock on the door and these girls answer and they're like, go pound sand, nothing's wrong. Yep. You're like, okay, something's not adding up here. I mean, are you forced to walk away? Is there anything that cops can do to either detain people, take them away from that situation, or do you have to just walk away?
It just depends how far you can take it, right? So at the very least, if you have some sort of like domestic violence angle you can work, go ahead and work that, right? Not every department or agency has a human trafficking team. I keep hitting the mic. Because I would say, hey, look, if you feel like it's something, give us a call and we'll, kind of walk you through it or whatever. The biggest thing is like, don't walk away prematurely. Try to take it as far as you can go. And sometimes, yes, you have to like, all right, there's nothing more I can do. But, start putting those people on your radar if that's what your suspicions are. You know what I mean? And if you say you go to this hotel and you suspect this is what's going on, but you can't really, prove anything or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd say go across the street, sit back and watch, and wait to see if these random dudes start going up to the room and are in there for 15 minutes and then leave. And then another dude, you know what I mean? Like, start seeing if there's other angles you could work, as far as dealing with that.
I think like you're right. Digging as much as you can. We talk a lot about like critical thinking in our training classes, but really trying to dig deep into what there is. But I think important too is because it's showing that the victim compassion and that you're on their team, because the reality is like it's changed a lot where they are victims and they're being looked at as victims because a lot of them don't want to be there. But I do like the idea of like from a patrol aspect, like there's a lot of cops that watch this. And I think look back, learning from Steigert's and working Stockton Boulevard a lot, me and my partner, what we would do is we would constantly go out and talk with the girls that were on the streets, build rapport. Like we had no intentions of ever citing them. There's many times we never even asked their name. It was just like, I want to know who you are. And then I had like a notebook of who they were, their XREF number, which is a way to locate people. And then we would always pay attention to like the vehicles in the area and take note of that, the license plates, and then go park in the dark, walk out and watch, see what car is going to pull up. Then we start connecting the car to that victim. And then we're creating like our own stuff because that was ultimately your team is where I actually wanted to go. So I was trying to work those cases. And then now you see, okay, this person, that person, this exploiter, where are they going? How long are they out there? And then when you make contact with the victim, then now you know the car and you're watching the car. Like, what is the car doing? Is the car driving by? And like you said, are the victims sitting in your car, or are they just leaning in your patrol car window talking to you? Because you're right, like from the exploiter position, way different demeanor of what is going on, why, and then her phone starts ringing. It's like I try to pull her away. Like there's a lot of really interesting stuff but it comes with critical thinking and really observing what's going on around. And that's just like a normal street.
How much are the exploiters that are paying attention watching like out on the street?
Oh, dude, it's like they just hide out in plain sight. It's not even, they don't even try to like hide themselves out there. And the hard part is like, you can't just go, oh, that's an exploiter, I'm going to arrest you for pimping, right? You have to kind of build the case, right? And so if you don't have cooperation from the victim, there's other angles. Obviously, I don't want to give up like tricks of the trade, but there's definitely like other evidence pieces that, and that's the great thing about say pimping and pandering in California is that we could build cases absent victim cooperation, just based off the evidence alone. So yeah, going out there and that's great to hear because like what you did, because that's exactly it. You can sit back and you go watch these guys out there and you can see them doing all their stuff. And if you see the girl kind of going back and forth to the car, there's a good chance, especially after she's just got dropped off by a buyer and she's dropping off the money to the dude, right? And then
so what meaningless behavior could look meaningless is actually a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And that's all stuff to pay attention to, document, take notes.
Yeah, but it face value.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's easy to drive by and just see that and be like, oh, this is nothing. But when you really, like you were saying, like you really are watching, like
no, that's what I'm saying.
This
is like
is really
at face value, it looks like nothing, but that's actually something to pay attention to, document. And I want to give you credit. That sounds like you did do a good job. Obviously, it wasn't enough to make the team, but
well, I went a different direction.
Oh, okay.
I got picked
so you
up
didn't
on the
test
SWAT
or anything
team.
for it? And got
No. I was on the SWAT team.
Okay, I was just trying to give him a little jab.
Yeah, no, you try, but I mean, keep trying. Right. Yeah, you're little. You don't even know what this is called. Like you'd probably call this like a cross.
Yeah.
After you build these cases, and I think what we've been discussing has been more or less like the females out working the street and the pimping and stuff. And so what are those guys looking at if you do build a case against them? You make the arrest. What are at least here in California?
Yeah. So pimping and pandering in California holds a 3, 4, or 6 year triad. So 3 years in prison, 4 years in prison, 6 years in prison, depending on like their criminal history and stuff like that. If they have prior strikes, that gets doubled. So we've had cases where guys have gotten 12 years in prison. If it falls under the sex trafficking law, like there's force and coercion and stuff like that, then they get a quite a bit more. We've had cases as much as 72 years in prison.
Wow.
A couple cases were like 28 years. I did a wiretap investigation a few years ago on the federal side, and that guy, there was two co-defendants, and they got like 30 years in prison and stuff. So
They're not slap on the wrists.
no, and it's one of the few
Cases.
crimes. Like, so the pimping and pandering are mandatory state prisons, so you don't even get like, they're not probation eligible. So it's actually one of the few crimes left that, you know, has a little bit of bite to it. And then, like I said, and then especially if you start getting in like violence with minors and stuff, that's 15 to life.
Wow.
And we've gotten a few life cases on those type of deals. So there's some serious penalties going out.
I
That's
think
pretty good in
and you
California.
look at like there are cops out there that look at a traffic stop or an arrest and they're like, oh, this person's only going to get 20 days in jail, or this is they might serve 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's like there are times, and I was guilty of it too early on, where you're associating with what you're doing with the outcome of the charge, and
Right.
you devalue your effort and you half-ass stuff because you're like, oh, they're going to get nothing. It's a slap on the wrist. But when it comes to human trafficking, like they are some serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the cases that to me are very rewarding.
Right.
So I think anybody, especially you, retiring, coming out of that unit that spends time doing that, and these people get hefty years in prison. That's a rewarding case. That is totally worth your time asking tons of questions.
Yeah, I think over my years, I've had over 400 years of total sentences.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And a lot of times those guys are also related with gangs, firearms, drugs, like all
Yeah.
sorts of things outside of just that. So
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. I actually did I had one of the analysts put together.
Hey, hold on. You doing all right? You're like, your hands are like locked in tight.
No,
You're just like,
dude, he's in the zone.
I'm
is
like-
that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, was it Will Ferrell? I don't know what to do with my
Yeah.
hands.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
This whole
everybody-
time.
Yeah.
We did. Okay. So disclaimer,
said
we
that.
did say, hey, like you got to make sure you're close to the mic, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, I'm just going to sit like this. And you have been,
Yeah.
dude. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Do what you want with your hands.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So Fig and I, there we were.
yeah,
Yeah.
there we were.
Fig head.
Okay,
he's
so
so
I
lucky.
had this analyst put together these kind of like statistics for us, right? I went back through all the cases that we had filed over the years in our unit and break down their criminal histories to see what other stuff they were into. And yeah, it was like, 72% were domestic violence guys, it was like 86% were, something else, assaults, 46% were gang members, it was like all this like, all these other things that these guys were involved in. And I tell our gang unit all the time, I said, hey, look, if you can't get this guy for a shooting, if you can't get him for, whatever assault or case you
That's
want,
a great point.
let us look at the evidence you have, that on this other stuff, and we'll Al Capone the guy, on a pandering
Yeah.
case, in
awesome.
the meantime.
That's a great
and, and then that'll give you time to work on your deal. So.
Which would be more time. They would get more time for that than if they did get prosecuted for being involved in a shooting.
Yeah,
Like,
good.
let's be honest.
Right.
In California, that's what,
yeah, I always
not very
ask.
much.
Yeah, I always ask at the beginning of the training, like, all right, what are people getting for like guns and dope right now? And it's like barely slaps on the
not a
PP,
lot.
right?
Yeah, you're getting released from jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. So I want to ask, what is the difference and why are you hooked up with the FBI task? Like you're on it, you just retired, but you're on a task force, police agency, FBI. How are you connected to that team? And like how does that even work?
Yeah. Well, I guess the position was already there when I got into the spot. So like it was just, there's this MOU, I guess, or whatever it is between FBI and our agency. So it was like I was just filling that spot that Derek left. But the great thing about that is, we get cross-designated or sworn or whatever, as a federal agent, I guess. And so like that wiretap case I told you, I took that federal versus, state side.
Yeah.
And so that gave us another avenue to prosecute cases, and then you also get like resources and stuff from coming back from the FBI, and there was a couple cases we went across the country to do some follow up and stuff on, and so it's just a good partnership. And the cool thing is, like when I first started in 2017, it was me and another person, but that other person they were timing out and they wanted to go do something different, so they transferred to a different unit in the department. They never like filled their spot, and so it was just me and like one dude from the sheriff's office for all of Sac County, basically doing the human trafficking stuff. And then in 2020, Sac PD created a full-time human trafficking unit. So then it became me, 2 other detectives, and a sergeant, which was great. It just opened up our world of like all the work we could do. And then earlier this year, well, I guess last year now, 2025, the DA's office spearheaded putting together a regional task force. So now there's agents from California DOJ, our team, Elk Grove's jumping on, CDCR is there, FBI is going to be there, DA's office, and a couple other, like we're building it out. Not me anymore.
Yeah.
But
You're a has-been, buddy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm dust in the wind now. So, but they're building it out. So it's really grown and it's great because like now we're just doing incredible stuff as far as like trying to like do something about this because it's a big problem. Like Sacramento is. You think about where Sacramento is, right? It's kind of in the middle of everything. You have four major freeways coming through because this is a very transitory crime, meaning one day our exploiter and our victim could be in Sacramento, and then tomorrow they could be in Oakland or San Francisco, down to LA, wherever, right? They kind of just chase where the money is. And so, but Sacramento is just kind of in the middle of all of it. A couple years ago, one of the advocacy groups that we work with, Community Against Sexual Harm is the name of the organization. They're great. They provide advocates for us and to help. Like we could do the cop stuff, right? But they're great at doing the follow-up stuff, the
resources
and everything. So Cash, in conjunction with Sac State and another national research firm, they did this really comprehensive study. And what the study was looking for is what the prevalence of commercial sexual exploitation was in Sacramento County. And so between 2015 and 2020, they found that there was over 13,000 victims of commercial sexual exploitation that came through our county. And it was really a comprehensive study too. So the variance was only by a couple of thousand, if plus or minus. So either way, that was a very significant number.
Huge number.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you want to tell us here in a minute about January, because it's an awareness month, but also for cops working in the area of Santa Clara, where the 49ers, where the Super Bowl is going to be held at this year, any major event, it attracts that population to do crime and exploitation. So I think if any of these cops that are working any of these outer areas, hotels, all of that, like now is key time if you're interested in working that, and there are going to be a lot of victims concentrated in this area, to really pay attention and to really look at that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So Santa Clara, like the surrounding agencies and everything, are really gearing up for that because not only Super Bowl, but they have FIFA World Cup soccer coming too.
Yeah,
and so I've been on a working group, gearing up for that. I've done a lot of training actually to try to get the officers, dialed in for that as well. Because and I forget the statistic, but they showed us like kind of this line graph or whatever of activity prior to like previous Super Bowls and other states and stuff. And you have like your normal activity, and then about 2 weeks before it starts spiking. And then the interesting thing, though, was after the event was over, the spike stayed high for another couple weeks.
Really?
Yeah, because I guess they were there, they were making money. And so, but the interesting, I got a story for you. So we were doing an operation like a John Sting. And basically, just kind of in a nutshell, we make fake advertisements to put online for prostitution, and then the buyers, will reach out to us, and we'll hold the conversations with them and make the date. And when they show up, then they get arrested, right? But periodically, when you do these operations, you also get hit up by exploiters, and they try to recruit you. And so the great thing about like the pandering laws is it doesn't matter whether you're a sex worker or an undercover officer. It's still, as long as they believe that you do sex work and they're trying to like encourage, entice, induce you to engage in sex work, then we can get them for pandering. So we do all kinds of undercover stuff, social media wise, or but in these particular operations. Well, so this guy reaches out to me and basically we have this conversation, and he's recruiting me and trying to get me to go back to San Antonio with him. Long story short, we get him to agree to come out here to come pick me up, and this was, so I had my UC officer, my female decoy officer. We called him one night, and this was, I think it was about 2 weeks before the Super Bowl down in Los Angeles. And so as she's having this conversation with him, he's like, yeah, baby, I'll come out there. I'll pick you up. We'll go down to LA. We'll go make a bag down there for the Super Bowl, and then we'll go back to Texas afterwards. And so, yeah, this is on these guys' minds. And so there's going to be this huge influx of our, exploiters and victims heading towards the Santa Clara area to drum up business, because
I don't think a lot of people think of that.
Yeah.
Well, you get a bunch of people coming in, concentrating to be in the Super Bowl. There's a lot of people that fly in, and you get people that are the Johns, and they want that, and they leave their families behind and they go to the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's horny dudes with money, there's gonna be sex trafficking.
Yeah.
That's the.
I mean, that's real. Yeah.
Like, if you ask Jason, how do you solve sex trafficking? And
Are you first person, third personing this question?
yeah,
Okay.
all of it.
Okay, I was like, who's this Jason? I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, that's you. Like,
Right,
what
yeah.
are you doing?
Right. So, if you ask me,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, now I get it.
first person,
Okay.
possessive. If you ask me, how do you solve the sex trafficking issue? And this is going to be an oversimplification, but if you think about like the theory of supply and demand, right? Demand being the buyers, the distribution being the exploiters, and the supply being the victims, right? If you affect the demand, if you curb the demand, you stop the demand from, meaning, there's nobody buying sex, then there's no sex to sell, right? So I know it's an oversimplification, but if you, and I've seen it, like when Fig and I would go out on Stockton Boulevard.
Did you want to wave at him again?
Hi, Fig. I'm watching you.
Actually, he's watching you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Laughing.
But he's thinking about him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there can we put like heart emojis and stuff like around?
Yeah, we can do whatever you want, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
But so like when we go out on Stockton Boulevard, we go out one night, and there was this one particular little business shopping center, and there was a business kind of in the front part of the parking lot, and it was one of more of the active spots, and there was always girls hanging out at the business in front, and the way the parking lot was designed, there was like a driveway to the right of the business, and there was a driveway kind of left of the business, so you can kind of come in and just loop around. And so we go out there one night, and there's a security guard, and he's putting up those little orange cones in the driveways of the parking lot. And we're like, hey, bro, what's going on? And like, the business partnership hired us to, deal with this stuff out here. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks, appreciate it. And but sure's, are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you can say it.
Sure as shit.
Yeah. There you go.
How's it feel?
Yeah. You good?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like the feeling of being retired, and then there's like the feeling of saying sure as shit on a podcast. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I could see your smile is huge.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to him.
Yeah, I
did.
did.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
glad we got to see this. This is a big day.
I've been trying to be all
Huge week for
professional
you.
and stuff this
Yeah.
whole time.
It's a hard topic.
I mean, look at
Yeah.
these hands. They just
They were locked
Yeah.
in.
They were locked in.
Basically like your focus.
Yeah. So we go out there, and like the cones are up and everything. And what didn't we see the entire night? Girls in that parking lot, because the buyers couldn't get through, so there was no business to be had. So the girls went up or down. And I was like, see, Fig, this proves my theory. You address the demand piece of it, and then that affects the business part of it. And like I said, as long as there's horny dudes, with money, it's just not that simple. I get it, but
Yeah. Well, what I feel like they could do is make the laws a lot more harsher penalties if you're purchasing it. I understand the victim piece of it, and that's a misdemeanor. But if you're buying it, why not make that substantially more of a punishment? And then, which is going to make people think twice about wanting to do that.
yeah, that's
Because I mean, how else would you? I mean, there is no way to stop it.
well. the unfortunate piece was, well, one, the laws against the buyers have like no bite. And then you get certain politicians who start getting rid of laws like the loitering for prostitution law.
And you don't think that's because they're involved in that, do you?
We're not allowed to talk about conspiracy theories.
Yeah. There
and-
are factual documentation of all kinds of people soliciting.
100% we know that happens.
Yeah. As a side note, I've had school teachers, coaches, medical professionals, a firefighter on his like day of retirement. I haven't personally gotten a law enforcement officer yet, but there's plenty of them who have been caught on these type of things. What was my point?
We're just about like how to substantially making the
the laws.
Yeah, laws.
Okay, so the good thing is we have new politicians who had been in the fight against human trafficking. Starting today, in fact, there is a law in the books that brings back the loitering for solicitation prostitution. So it's not for the victims or the girls out there, but it does affect the buyers, addresses the buyers. So officers can now go back out when they see these guys looping up and down the street and stopping and talking to the girls, and they can now pull them over and get them for loitering for prostitution.
Good,
So
which then could lead into other things.
it's a misdemeanor, yes.
I think that would. I think people in those that work those specific areas should hammer those people.
Yeah.
Start doing like dedicated enforcement days for just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be something in the works, but
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is, but if you're
No.
for cops that are listening to this stuff
Yeah.
who don't have specialized units like that, who focus primarily on that, I mean, that's an easy thing that an agency could do.
Yeah.
And that's also like rewarding because you are making a difference in a way. You know, not to everything, but you are preventing something.
Yeah, here's the deal about sex buyers. And I think the general public probably thinks, oh, it's just probably some poor guy that's not good with the ladies and can't really, that's his only avenue of meeting, women or whatever. When I've had over 1,000 undercover conversations with sex buyers online, and most of them are trying to fulfill some kind of fetish, some sort of kink, some sort of something outlandish, right? Like, I'm a pretty like funky dude, right? Like there's little stuff.
You
that,
get
like,
down, dude?
I get down.
Hey, this is a safe place, dude.
Yeah.
But also be careful.
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, watch out. Mark might jump over the table, dude.
Right. Yeah.
His animalistic.
Full disclosure, I'm a little funky.
Right. But
his wife is dying right now.
right. But
I'm sorry, what?
meaning like there's very little that can offend me or like kind of throw me off. But some of these conversations I've had with these guys make me kind of at the end of the night just feel a little gross.
Yeah.
Because the things they ask for, the demeanor with which they like talk to me, like I know none of this stuff's going to happen to me. However, the way they talk to you, like, basically you're just a sexual object to them.
That's it. Yes.
And that's it. And and they are demeaning and they say horrible things and, like ask for really gross stuff. And so yes, I believe that there needs to be a full addressing of, dealing with those people.
Yeah. Some of them, they're not getting that at home, or they would never ask or want to do that. So they go out and do it. And many times, you've obviously seen it. Some of them are incredibly violent, and they do it because they know they can get away with it.
Right.
And then the victim, like you said, nothing's going to happen to you, but there are those victims that's going to happen to them.
There's been plenty of girls that have said that bad things have happened to them, by these buyers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of it goes underreported too.
Yeah, and I think the general public looks at the buyer as like you said, oh, it's just somebody that is having a hard time talking to women. They just want to fulfill a quick need, but inside what they're doing behind the closed doors, those are not okay people. Like they're not good human beings.
Many of them are married. I would say more than not are married. And then they're coming out there and doing that. And, and then there's all the other dangers that, they're in danger themselves. We've had plenty of sex buyers get robbed or assaulted or, stuff as well.
I've seen that a lot. Yeah. Getting robbed is a huge one.
Yeah. So, it's dangerous on both ends, not to mention what they could potentially catch, as far as STIs
Diseases,
and stuff like that. So, it's just bad all around. I feel bad for, the girls that have to constantly take these messages and conversations and deal with it. And
that's terrible.
On top of all the other stuff they got to do.
Especially at that age, at that young of an age that some of these girls are. That's really sad. Yeah. So, all right, we've all seen the movie Taken, except for Mark.
Maybe I have seen it. I just don't want to tell you.
You haven't seen it. It's fine. You don't even know who Liam Neeson is. So, with that said, you brought it up earlier too. When you hear that, that is part of human trafficking that I don't think people think is real, and it is. Can you kind of share? Do you have some stories that more or less relate to that kind of human trafficking, where like these women are like bought, taken, or sold?
So it's tough because that's kind of the myth that I have to dispel sometimes, because especially when I'm talking on the stand, because there's terms like, human trafficking is modern day slavery, or, it develops imagery that the victims are held in chains or like cargo containers and stuff like that. And it's not to dismiss that what happens internationally, because I think there's some crazy, crazy stuff that happens internationally. But when we're looking domestically, most of our victims just come from our local neighborhoods, right? And they're not getting there's not just a normal person walking down the street getting abducted and like sold into sex, sex work. It's all kind of boils down to that manipulation, that kind of like coercion or whatever to get them to do the work, but social media right now is probably the largest recruiting ground.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah. If you have daughters, keep them off social media. That's my biggest rule or suggestion to parents. But because we have like undercover social media accounts, and on a daily basis, there's pimps reaching out to us, trying to recruit us. And that's all you have to do is you could throw out a net. You could send a message to 100 people. You only need one or two to respond. And then you start smooth talking them and telling them all nice things and getting them all, into, oh man, this guy kind of likes me, or, or they know what he's about, and maybe they're looking to improve their situation because the person they're with now, doesn't treat them really well. And maybe this sounds like a better situation. So, there's a lot going on. So as far as like Taken goes, we don't see it on a local level like that. I think where you get your international aspect in, I know you get your international aspect in is when we start talking about like say massage parlors and brothels. That's where you get your international element as far as like victims go. A lot of Asian victims, a lot of South American victims actually coming in now, working in these brothels and stuff. And so, and those cases are interesting because they have a different dynamic to them. There's not this like exploiter who's, taking them out on the streets or anything like that. It's more, that's where you get kind of your more organizational stuff, organizational crime type stuff, because there's a lot of money being, filtered out of the country to overseas and stuff like that. So, but the victims that work in those environments are typically foreign born.
And are they coming here on their own will, or?
It varies. And what I mean by that is, when we talk about choice is a relative term, right? Like, free will and stuff like that. A lot of times it just is as screwed up as it is. It does provide them a better opportunity, than where they're coming from. Some of them are kind of tricked or played into coming. They're promised one thing, but when they get here, the script is flipped on them, and then now they're kind of in this situation. A lot of times there's this kind of like indentured servitude aspect, like we'll cover the cost of you coming to America and stuff, but you got to do this, and you'll be able to finish, or like you could stop once you pay off your debt. And so they got to do all this work, but but that debt's never paid. Say it's $20,000. Well, there's interest, right? And then if they're staying at the massage parlor, well, there's rent. And then let's say they're using toiletries and stuff. Now you got to pay for the toilet, so it's always chasing it.
Yeah.
It's never
crazy.
fulfilled.
I remember before you were on it, your team had written and worked some case where it was a parlor and the buyer had to go there and they were entrusted, meaning it was the same person that had gone multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do more where at the parlor, they would give you a garage door opener and an address, and then you would drive through it. It was a nice neighborhood, hit the garage door, you drive your car in and it shuts, and then the mama son comes out, and then you go in, and then the victims come out and they line up, and then you pick who you want, and then you go back to their room. And our team hit that house, we rated it, and I remember it was shocking because there was no door handles on any of the rooms. It was double-sided keys. So the victims inside could not get out.
Right.
They did not want to be in there. And when we raided it, they were trying to grab us, like, get us out of here.
Yeah.
And, when you raid a place, you search everything to see if there's potential for a body to be concealed. Well, there was virtually nothing. There was just a bed, a table. There was like a big jar of condoms that were already opened, and they were in there just laying in there because part of like trash runs and stuff, if you found a whole bunch of them, then you could connect. So it was like you didn't have to open anything, and in the closet was a couple things of lingerie, and the women were only in lingerie. There's literally no clothing. Dude, it left a major impression in me. Like, it was they did not want to leave.
That's stuff the public doesn't see.
Yeah, it was
There's
freaking
no way.
wild.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that stuff is happening, and the public has completely no idea that even exists.
Oh yeah, and the problem with dealing with like brothels and massage parlors is, like, even for my team, it's hard to like keep. There's so many of them, and the investigations themselves. Like, if you really want to do something about it, right? Get up, climb the chain, or the pyramid or whatever of the organization and stuff like that. You have to put in a lot of time and a lot of resources. And Fig just got done with one, and it took him 10 months to work on, and on top of all the other cases that were coming in and stuff like that. So, and he's still sifting through, the aftermath of the evidence and stuff like that. I think he wrote like 25 or 30 search warrants. And
wow, that's great work.
Yeah. So it's those are probably the least addressed, at least in this area, because they're just so labor intensive in doing them. Yeah, you could do the whack-a-mole approach. You can just go hit it and knock it out, but you're not gonna. They're gonna just pop up somewhere else. So that's the toughest aspect of dealing with.
Well, this is a interesting topic that the general public really has no concept of, and when you start talking about it and giving examples that are real, it starts to shock people because it's easy not to think that it's real. Can you tell us what this month is, and like
Sure.
the importance of it?
Yeah, no. So January has been deemed Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and there's a lot of work that's being done, not only through law enforcement, but through a lot of the, these kind of nonprofit organizations that are really looking out to try to make people aware about what human trafficking is. So we end up usually doing, a lot of like community group presentations, and you'll see a lot of probably like social media posts and stuff like that, because it's just, unless you're out on Stockton Boulevard, unless you live next to some of these motels, or unless there's a house where there's nothing but males kind of coming and going throughout the whole day. That's the funny part when you start doing the surveillance on these like massage parlors, right? It's all male customers. You never see a female go in there to get a massage. They're in there for like 15 minutes, and then they pop out and stuff like that. So you start seeing this activity, it becomes really apparent what's going on. So January is always a big month to kind of kick off the year, and let people know what's happening.
All right, so this is a really interesting topic, and we can go on and on and on about details, but what can you leave the general law enforcement, these cops, especially being this month in the Super Bowl coming up, what can you leave them with that they could help identify, and then what happens if they work it enough where I don't know what to do from here? Like, what could you tell them that they can do?
Right. Yeah, I mean, so these investigations are very nuanced. It's tough. It took me probably a good solid year to feel comfortable taking an investigation from start to finish and like feeling like I nailed it. So for just a regular patrol guy shows up on a call and goes, I think this is one of those situations. Just like we were kind of talking about earlier, just take it as far as you can go. You know, get as much information as you can. If you have a victim who is kind of opening up, you know, just make sure you cover at least the elements of it, right? And like, where do they work? How do they work? What happens to the money? You know, those type of things, right? And if you can get that information, digital evidence is very key. So if you can get into that, then, you know, get that as the best you can, because, you know, those conversations are really going to paint the picture of what's going on behind the scenes. So the victim's going to tell you one thing, but when you read that conversation between the exploiter and the victim, that's really going to, you know, enlighten you on what's really happening and how that control and that, you know, facilitation and management is working. So, and then if you kind of get to a point where like you're stuck, you know, hopefully you have investigators that at least do some sort of the work. Like I said, not everybody has a full-time human trafficking team, but there are plenty of agencies. Like I said, I do training all up and down the state where that's kind of like one of their ancillary duties, or like there's, you know, like one of the other things that they have to investigate on top of all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. So try to figure out who your investigator is that does that, and then, you know, pick their brains and try to do that. Because for our agency, we always gave our numbers out, and like, you know, I'd get calls throughout the night. I remember one time I was down in San Diego for a training, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and a patrol officer called me, and they're like, "Hey, you told us like call you if we have any situations."
You're
so
like, yeah,
like,
dude, spit it out.
Yeah. So he's like, "I'm calling you now." I'm like, all right. But it worked out because I was able to walk him through, and we actually made the arrest that night. Like,
nice.
Yeah, I was able to kind of like take him step by step through it. So find training. If this interests you, find training. I do a 8-hour HT for patrol class. You could either reach out through SAC PD and do that, or we'll figure out a way.
They can reach out to us. For the class, for sure, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, reach out to these guys. I'd be more than happy to put something on for your agency, and just it gives you kind of what human trafficking is, and then it gives you the tools to like at least get the ball rolling on it, and, you know, recognize it and get the ball rolling. So, you know, those are kind of the nuggets of wisdom I have, I guess.
And then what about for if you're not in law enforcement and you see something, how do you report that? What could you offer for the public?
Call your local law enforcement agency and be descriptive in what you're seeing. Like, don't just say, I think somebody's being human trafficked. Like, you know, explain kind of what it is, because dispatchers are now getting trained on what, you know, human trafficking is and what to look for and stuff like that. And I get the question a lot of times from the public side of it, like, oh, what can we do? And there's not much you could do to help law enforcement per se, but I would say find your local human trafficking advocacy groups and see how you could help them, whether it's donations or volunteer work. I would say be leery of these kind of like national/international, like, you know, huge organizations. You know, some have like great intentions, but, you know, you don't always know where the money's going and stuff like that. But if you find your local just nonprofit group that is doing the groundwork in your, you know, area, then see how you could help out with them.
Wow. Nice. I think it comes down to a mental mind shift for a lot of, just if we're talking patrol and handling these cases, I think it is a mental mind shift of actually wanting to show compassion versus looking at some of these women differently or as criminals. That's kind of my takeaway from, you know, if I'm putting myself in a patrol.
No, that's exactly right. Shoes. And usually when I start my training, I try to like get the officers in that mindset from the get-go. You I tell them, like, you don't have to be woke, you don't have to be sissified, you don't have to be, not being a dick is probably the best thing you could do, right? And then with that comes a level of compassion and understanding. And we talk about like empathy, and it's not like you're feeling sorry for them. It's just understanding where that victim is coming from and why they're kind of difficult and why they're not exactly cooperative. Like, you can't take offense to that. You have to know that there's all these other barriers based on their like upbringing and their life situation and all that stuff that causes, that kind of response. So just like, seeing them, like, basically what I say is just be a human with them.
Yeah.
Don't be necessarily a cop, right? Like, if you're asking them questions, just be conversational with them, because that'll go a lot further than, trying to tell me the facts, ma'am.
Yeah. And understanding too that they are probably being watched and for their own safety are going to respond a certain way.
Yeah.
And don't take offense to that.
Yeah. And if you can get them kind of like out of sight of things and that'll go a lot further. And these victims, they're in constant survival mode. So they're reading people all the time, right? Nonverbal, cues and tones and stuff like that. And so if you're disingenuous on like the questions you're asking, but the way you're looking, your posture, doesn't quite match up, they're going to read that. And that's what they're going to read. They're not going to hear what you're saying.
That's a good point.
And a lot of times too, like, I try to alleviate a lot of their fears or anxieties from the get-go. So if I know I'm not going to be arresting them unless they got warrants or something like that, right? But for the things we're going to talk about, them engaging in prostitution, I'm not going to arrest them. So one of the first things I'll tell them is, I have no intention of getting you in trouble for the stuff we're going to talk about. I'm here to just, if I could help you, I can, or I will. Let's see what your situation is. And that tends to like at least take them down a notch.
Like build a little bit of trust.
Yeah. And if they believe you, then, they're a little more apt to, because they're going to tell you stuff like that's basically illegal. Right. And so, and if there's a history of being arrested for, doing that work to begin with, they're going to be leery of doing that. But if you say, and I always say, be careful. Don't say, if you tell me what I want to hear, then I won't arrest you. That's not a good way to say it.
Two different things.
So it's always like, hey, look, I have no intention of getting you in trouble for this. I just want to like see if there's a way I can help you out. And that's kind of the intro into starting a good victim interview.
All cops should be like that anyways for virtually everything.
Right.
I mean, when you're talking in terms of talking to any victim, narcotic stuff, I mean, really anything, you should be like that.
Yeah, but also for the victims too of exploitation, because they're going to be in one area that are going to get contacted by cops, and if they're assholes and you go to another area and you try to talk to them, they're going to already have a wall up because. So I think all cops should be tuned. But dude, thanks for coming in. Like you have a wealth of knowledge. I think Dan Chip will be stoked to know that you've been very respectful to his chair.
That I took over his chair, or
you did. I mean,
no, he's been
we'll
here a couple
tell Dan
times.
later that he's actually got the boot.
Yeah.
Jason, we'll talk to Dan about that off air.
Yeah, we'll have to crush him easily.
Yeah. Okay.
You're welcome back anytime. And
you don't
if you
look
want to
like
wave
Adam
it
Sandler.
at Fig one last time, I know it's been a little bit.
Say bye.
Happy New Year, happy birthday, happy retirement.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what are we missing here, dude?
Nothing. Just happy life right now.
New car? Anything? Like,
No.
Had to give up your take-home car. That sucks.
Yeah.
Welcome to paying for gas.
I can't remember last time I paid for gas, but that'll be something.
To it.
Yeah, that's all right though. I'm
We can
willing to make the sacrifice.
We can take you to the pump and we can show you.
Yeah.
I'm the one saying it. I have a take-home car.
I know
too,
you don't pay for gas
I can't,
either. Like
yeah.
you don't even look at the sign. Just pump your gas. It's not going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just
your hair me to Chipotle. That's all I. That's all I want.
Number one in Chipotle.
That's right.
Your hair is on point today. It is very perfect.
I got a haircut yesterday. It was
I know.
wonderful.
Kyle's like, he better get his haircut. Kyle's a stickler when it comes to hair.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. Marcus constantly struggles with that. So
that's all right. You got some product in there. That's fine.
Yeah, you're getting better.
Yeah.
I wanted to end it with we talked about FIFA World Cup. Do you guys know how much the tickets are for that? For a ticket?
Yeah, probably $6,000.
It's anywhere between $2,000 to $8,000 on a resale market.
Do you know how much a Super Bowl ticket is?
$4,000?
I don't know. Look it up.
$5,000, I think, actually.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. We should just end this because people are starting to click off. So appreciate you coming in, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations on everything. Thank
Yeah.
you. And we'll have to talk about the class and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Anything you guys need. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
see you
it.
guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
See ya.